at the University of Pennsylvania's Wharton School of Business when he turned down a lucrative job offer from JP Morgan to train as a discus thrower. That's a track and field event that dates back to the first Olympics in ancient Greece.
Sam will represent the United States at the Olympics. I talked to him about competing at the Olympics during a pandemic and what it felt like to turn down good money to chase a dream.
Saying no to banking money was not the most fun deal, especially considering how much I knew I was going to be struggling financially and have struggled financially. But honestly, it wasn't a very hard decision for me. I knew that this is what I wanted to do and only have one chance to really do this in my whole life. It's not like I can finish a career somewhere and then decide to be an athlete. So right after NCAAs at the end of my junior year, I pretty much knew that this is what I was going to be doing.
And how are you able to afford training and living expenses after you graduated from UPenn in 2016? Did you really survive off of sports betting and blackjack?
No, that's a little exaggerated. I made a little bit of money off of those gambling apps and a little bit of sports betting and blackjack. But I got some support from USA Track and Field, and then I've had a bunch of odd jobs since then to try to make ends meet. So I've barely kept afloat for most of the last 5 years, but I've managed.
And how did you get into discus? Were you not interested in racing?
I was. I just tripped over a hurdle in 8th grade, and I was told I was too big to race, which was probably a pretty fair point. So I started throwing, and my dad was a thrower in college. He knew what he was doing. So he was my main coach in high school and college before I moved out to Pennsylvania. So it was kind of just a series of accidents that kept building on each other until I got to this point.
Yeah, so at what point did you decide that you wanted to make discus a career? Was it after winning the NCAA championship in 2015?
I had started thinking about it before then, but after winning NCAAs, that became a very real possibility. It was sort of like a pipe dream for a while, kind of tucked away in the back of my mind that maybe if things go perfectly, I can end up doing this. And I won NCAAs my first week on my internship at JP Morgan. So past that, it was kind of just I knew what I wanted to do, and that was throw.
And the NCAA recently changed their rules, allowing college athletes to finally be able to profit off their name, image, and likeness. Would it have made a difference for you back when you were in college if they had changed the rules then?
It could have at least started getting some attention from sponsors and set me up so that transition from college to pro wasn't so jarring and didn't just leave me struggling to pay bills and stressing about rent. But for college athletes today, I think that's a great thing. They should get some compensation for the work that they're doing and for their name and likeness.
And how did you find the motivation to continue to pursue your dream when you heard Japan say that they were canceling the Olympics, or at least postponing it last year because of the pandemic? Did you have any second thoughts about your path?
No second thoughts. Definitely, it was just, unfortunate that that's how it had to play out. It made a lot of sense. Obviously, we're in the middle of a pandemic that's still ongoing. But it's been tough the last year. The USA Track and Field Foundation has tried to plug in some financial holes, but it's definitely been a struggle for the last year. And it's kind of felt like at times of just kind of training for the sake of training. But I've never really had a plan B while doing this, so I knew I was going to try to make it through this year no matter what it took.
And how effective have Olympic officials been in telling you and other athletes what the pandemic safety protocols are going to be at the competition?
Yeah, there are a ton of them. We have self-testing kits that they gave us. We have to get tested. We get tested when we land, and then we're going to be tested every day while we're there. So while I'm sure it's not going to go off completely without a hitch, I'm hoping at least that they're able to avoid some sort of mix-up and try to avoid any sort of bad outcomes. Yeah.
You mentioned earlier, Sam, that your dad was your first discus coach. How does it feel that he and your mom won't be allowed to be in the stands and cheer you on during this big moment in your life?
It's definitely a bummer. I wish they could be there. I wish they could have fans there, but it's definitely very clear that with Japan's vaccination rates and the vaccination rates of bunch of the other countries and the athletes that will be attending. That's just not feasible from a public health perspective. So I'm just trying to take it in stride. I'm happy to make the Olympics. I'm happy that they're having the games. So they just need to do what they need to do to make sure it's safe.
Yeah, you're happy to make the Olympics, but Olympic medals can mean big sponsorship dollars. Is that true for discus throwers too?
Yeah, for sure. Definitely less so than some other events. Just the state of sponsorship in the sport isn't great. There aren't a ton of opportunities. So anytime you do have that sort of opportunity to get your name on stage or on a podium, that's just huge and makes a huge difference. It can be the difference between being able to make it to the next Olympic Games financially or not. So it's definitely kind of critical to try to capitalize on the next month here.
And what's your take on the International Olympic Committee's stance when it comes to athletes' expressions on race during competition or medal ceremonies?
They just loosened up what they consider violations of expression or whatever about a week and a half ago. I still think it's a little hypocritical of the IOC to pretend that there's a hard separation between athletes and politics when the IOC itself is often involved in politics, and they want to promote the spirit of Olympism, which is the spirit of equality and inclusion. And pushing politics forward, I think, is a really key part of that. And to try to silence that, I think, is doing more to counter the spirit of Olympism than speaking up when you have that platform and that opportunity to make probably the biggest difference you as an individual will be able to make in your life.
Obviously, you've been laser focused on qualifying for the Olympics and your sport and throwing discus as far as possible. But what about social justice? I mean, how important has it been for you, what has been going on in the country and the aftermath of the murder of George Floyd?
Yeah, so I think, sports is a fun distraction from everything, even though it's really my main job. I think one of the most important things anyone can be doing is advocating for a better future for everybody. So on the side, I do try to organize a little bit in my community and take part in events. We organized a march for George Floyd here. We've tried to organize for housing rights in our community and trying to get tenants who are being evicted, temporary vouchers. So we try to do what we can. I try to do what I can with the time that I do have. But after discus, I'm sure I'll be devoting a lot more time to this.
How about Olympics 2024? Too soon? Too soon to talk about that? Do you plan to continue to pursue your discus career after these Olympics, or a more traditional Wall Street path of working for a big bank a second time around? At least this time, actually do it.
I've thought about it. We've had an extra year to kind of think about what athletics means to us and how we want to pursue our dreams post-pandemic. And I think I'll go for 2024, but probably hang it up right after then. Probably not going to go work for a big bank. I think that it's pretty clear from just being out at Olympic trials where it was 113 degrees in Oregon, that the climate crisis is a huge problem and needs to be addressed, and marginalized people are going to be the first people left out of those conversations. So I'd like to pursue some sort of career in environmental justice, wherever that means and wherever I can have the biggest positive impact.
It's been a long road to the Olympics for Sam Mattis, and we wish him the best of luck. Go Team USA. And coming up, we turn our attention to college athletes and the NCAA athletes who are cashing in on their name, image, and likeness.
Welcome back. Well, as Olympic athletes are gearing up for the Tokyo Games, college athletes are busy striking deals to make money from their name, image, and likeness, what's known as their NIL. And it's only been in effect for a couple of weeks since a new NCAA policy took place, allowing student athletes to cash in for the first time.
We want you to take a look at one of the announcements. So this is a giant electronic billboard in New York's Times Square. It doesn't get much bigger than that, announcing a deal struck between twin sisters who play on the Fresno State basketball team. The players' names are Hannah and Haley CAVINDER, and they join us now. Ladies, thanks so much for being with us. And Hannah, I'm going to start with you. I understand that you and your sister are pretty choosy when it comes to the deals that you strike. How are you deciding which businesses to partner with as you monetize your name, image, and likeness?
Right. I think it just comes with who you are and what your brand stands for. Also having people in our corner to kind of guide us because it's very new to us. But yeah, just trying to see what kind of brands you want to work with. Obviously, we love Boost Mobile and what they represent. So we are super excited for that.
Haley, so I'm going to come to you next. Obviously, you both really cashed in on this really large social media following that you both have, which really exploded during the pandemic. Curious to know what your advice is for fellow college athletes in terms of making money, especially if they don't have similarly large social media following.
I would just say to make sure you keep your sport your priority. I think that's helped Hannah and I build our brand through this whole process, to not lose sight of what got you there, and all that stuff will come. So I would just say to make sure, still focus on your sport because the brand will come with it if you do well in your sport.
I'm curious, Hannah, does Fresno State have to sign off or bless the deals that you and your sister are making when it comes to sponsorships and endorsements?
They necessarily don't have to sign off, but we do use an app called ARMS that we can submit our contracts to, because right now the school does have a policy and that's what the policy falls under. So they don't necessarily have to sign off, but they just like to know what's going on. We're obviously, students at Fresno State, so just making sure that we're working with the correct brands.
So speaking about the brands that you work with, but also the both of you as a brand, do you see your brand really remaining as a set, as twins, a package deal? Or do you think that, you guys might strike off on your own in the future and develop different interests?
I think that Hannah and I love the brand of us being twins. I think that is a unique thing in this business. So I think that's why everyone likes us, just because I think twins are unique on social media and just playing college basketball together. So I think in the future, we'll definitely want to be partners in everything we do.
Well, it's certainly clicking with social media fans. You guys have millions of TikTok followers, Instagram followers. Tell us what it's been like since the NCAA's announcement. I mean, have you been approached by a number of different companies, and who are you choosing to work with at this point? Who can you share with us?
Right. So it's been pretty chaotic since July 1st, but in a good way. And I think just when, working with brands and trying to negotiate with them, like I said before, just having people in your corner, our attorney, Darren has helped us a lot with contracts, and then my sister has been managing with us as well, just making sure that we're student athletes first and, focusing on basketball in school. So the extra stuff like contracts and negotiating will be through them.
So to that point about how you both are student athletes first, I think when we think of student athletes, we think about what happens afterwards. And typically, especially for athletes that play basketball, I think the next step is always going professional, and for the both of you to be in the WNBA. Do you share similar plans and goals to join the WNBA, or do you think that this path that you're on of striking a lot of these lucrative deals is going to continue even after you graduate?
I think growing up, Hannah and I always wanted to play in the WNBA together. I think that's something that would be insanely cool. But we're just trying to see where everything takes us. We would never turn an opportunity like that down, but just trying to see what's the best route to take us when that time does come.
So let me ask a sensitive question. I know you're not supposed to ask this, right? But how old are you, ladies?
20.
Okay, so the ripe old age of 20, you're coming into a lot of money fast. What are you doing in terms of investing that money or financial planning? I know you're real young and you probably have a lot of folks surrounding you who have a little experience there. But give us a feel, since we are Yahoo Finance, as to what it is you are doing or hope to do with the money that you're making.
Right. So my parents have helped us a lot with that kind of aspect and getting us a financial advisor. We are just investing our money and trying to set ourselves up both for future and having success in that way. So just trying to lean on them and get advice from them, as well as our financial advisor, has helped us a lot. So that's what we're focusing on, just setting ourselves up for success.
Curious to know, just because as we talk about NILs, which as a reminder is that name, image, and likeness that you both are now able to profit from, I think a lot about NFTs, those non-fungible tokens that a lot of athletes have really been getting interested in. So many athletes have been turning to cryptocurrency as an investment and as a way of making money. Do either one of you plan to get involved in the NFT or cryptocurrency space in some way going forward?
Right. That's crazy you asked that, just because we did have a Zoom call on that earlier this week. So yeah, we definitely are learning more about it, just because that is something that we don't know much of. So we're just trying to soak it all in and get all the information before we take any more steps with that.
All right, I have a feeling there's going to be an announcement soon. You guys have to let us know if and when it happens. But look, we're just days away from the Olympics. I'm sure you are both thinking about the future. Age is also an important factor in sports, right? You sort of need to strike while the iron is hot. So what are some of the plans? Hannah, I'll ask you, what are some plans for the future in terms of your sport? Are you looking at the WNBA? Are you considering, perhaps trying to make it to the Olympics?
Right. Obviously, the WNBA would be an amazing opportunity, and also playing overseas would be really, really cool. But right now, we're just focusing on being student athletes and trying to set ourselves up in that way, and just taking everything day by day, being present right now. But obviously, that'd be an amazing opportunity.
So when I think about the WNBA, sadly, I think a lot about pay gaps. Women that play in the WNBA do not make anything close to what men make in the NBA. I'm sure you're able to make up some of that gap in some of these lucrative deals. But I'm curious to know if there's any concerns that either one of you have about inequities as you're striking some of these deals. Perhaps, you two might not make as much money as some of your male college athlete counterparts. Are there concerns, perhaps, do you think, further down the road about racial inequities in terms of the money that is being made by some of these athletes like yourself in some of these deals?
Yeah, I think that's why we were so excited about NIL passing. I think that it was crazy to see on July 1st. A lot of female athletes were leading the way, and it was really cool to be a part of that. So yeah, like you said, it's so hard to go pro, especially for women in sports. There's less opportunity, just like there is not as much as men. So yeah, I think that's such a cool way. I think NIL passing does help women in sports because we are women and we are not in a Power 5 school or a quarterback at a football school. So I just think that is so cool to show our younger generation that female athletes can lead the way and profit off a name, image, and likeness, just like men.
What's one thing, we don't know about you two twin sisters, Hannah, that, people see your story, they think it's awesome, they think it all looks great on social media, but tell us something that maybe we don't know about the two of you.
We also have 3 other sisters that we grew up with, so it was a huge girl family, a lot of fighting, but they've turned into our best friends and people we can lean on and trust, so I'm grateful for them.
All right, Hannah and Haley. Yeah, do you have another one there? Go for it, Kristen.
No, I'm still stunned that there's 5 girls in the family.
That's crazy. Are they if they're athletes as well?
No, they are not. They grew up playing sports, but they didn't want to pursue it in college, so they're not athletes.
Okay, and also just I want to note, you guys are taller than your average woman, but in terms of basketball, not all that tall. You're 5'6", right? Each of you.
Okay. Good basketball.
Are you point guards or what are your positions?
Yeah, we're both guards. So I play more the point guard role, but we both are guards. So we can't be post at 5'5", 5'6".
No, you cannot, but you're doing something right. So we're going to continue to watch, and do come back, especially if you come up with an NFT. Hannah and Haley Cavinder of Fresno State basketball team, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank
And
you
stay
for
with
having
us. Bye, ladies. Stay with us for more Yahoo Finance after this quick break.
All right, well, we've been talking about the business of sports on today's show. And with the Tokyo Olympics just days away, all eyes are going to be on how the coronavirus pandemic is going to continue to disrupt the world's largest sporting event. Now, on the business front, top sponsor Toyota announcing that it is pulling all of its Olympic-themed TV ads amid low public support and rising coronavirus cases. And with more and more athletes testing positive, 67 since July 1st among those accredited for the 2020 games. We will, of course, have all of the latest for you here on Yahoo Finance and, of course, also on our sister site, Yahoo Sports.